Okay, so we're going to do a quick demonstration of the 6 angles of artificial lighting. For all of these, I've got my camera on a tripod. I'm intentionally working with a background that's not very distracting. I'm working in the lighting studio, but just try to have a plain solid colored wall without anything major behind the model's head that would be distracting. It'd be a good idea to separate your model from the background a few feet, 4 or 5 feet if you can, and you could use a shallow depth of field in order to blur out anything in the background that might be distracting. But either way, you want some space for the shadows to not be directly hitting the wall and be distracting. And I'm just starting out with my clamp light behind the camera without the reflector on it, actually, because that will be an issue when we get to the light being behind the head. So aside from that, we just want to set up and use a reasonably fast shutter speed, at least a 30th of a second most likely, and whatever aperture makes sense to get a good exposure, or auto exposure is probably fine, as well as I recommend bracketing so that you can pick the best one after the fact. For the first angle of light, we're starting off with the light right above the camera as it is now. That's going to make sure that the shadow falls on the background below my head rather than sticking up behind my head. And we want it within maybe a foot above the lens directly. So something quite like this would be perfect. And then I just have a piece of poster board that I'm going to occasionally pull in, and you can use a large sheet of paper or something like that, or a white bed sheet or something of that sort, to use as a reflector. So I'm going to use the reflector, but I need an assistant to, in my case, operate the light and the camera. My suggestion would be is that you, as the photographer, control the camera and control the light, and just have your model sit still. And then your model can take a poster board, and I have black on one side, white on the other, but I'll always use the white side. And you can, in this case, have it be below the frame of the camera. I should note that I'm photographing intentionally in a vertical orientation of the camera so that it sort of matches the model, in this case me. So you can probably see the difference when I pull the piece of foam core board in and out of my shot. Just make sure that you don't have it in the shot itself. It should be just reflecting. So that's number one. The second angle, we're going to move to about a 45-degree angle to the side, and we're going to try and hold it relatively high, as high as your assistant, or you, if you're the one holding it, can hold it. In this case, as the light gets further from the camera, you may want to use a 2-second or a 10-second timer to count it down to take the picture, but you always want to check your focus and set that before you do anything. We'll go a little bit more to the side to be 45 degree, and that's going to create a shadow down here on the side of my nose. And for this one, I'm going to hold the poster board off to the side of the frame, and you can probably see as I move it closer and further, it's going to fill in the shadow side of my face. The third angle, we're going to move all the way to the side, 90 degrees. And we can lower it a little bit and be fairly even with the model, and that should create a shadow relatively across my face where this side's dark and this side is bright. And if I bring my poster board in, depending on the angle and how close it is, it will fill in the shadow over here. For our fourth angle, we're going to get the light above our model, and we're going to use a chair or a stool off the side of the frame for my assistant to stand onto, and hold it centered over my head, directly above me. And what I'm going to have my model do, or my assistant do, is to move the light a little bit in front versus a little bit behind my face. And you can see at a different angle, you'll have more or less shadow, or more or less light hitting my forehead. For example, if it's just a little bit forward, my forehead might get really bright, but you can kind of decide what angle you like for the shadows to show more or less on your model's face. And again, taking a piece of poster board outside the frame, that's going to fill in my shadows really nicely. The fifth angle of light we're going to do, I'm going to have my assistant hop down now, and going to take the light and go directly behind my head. And one of the things we're going to be careful to do, though, is I'm going to actually have my assistant kneel down just a little bit in order to hold their arm up kind of directly behind my neck so that it's not in the frame. And then I'm looking for the light to be centered behind my head relatively, and it's going to create all, and I don't have a lot of hair, but all the hair, if you have long hair, will be glowing from that light. And then similarly, we can take our piece of poster board, and on either the left or the right hand side, we can have that held up in order to bounce some light back into the model's face. In our final angle of light, we're going to have our light come down by either model's feet and relatively pointing up into their face, and that's going to be our bottom light. And with this one, we can bring the light a little bit closer to camera or further from camera, and it will change the light angles a little bit. And then we want our poster board to be above the head and outside of the frame. And I don't know if this is going to look awkward with me holding it up. My shoulder might be in the frame, but you relatively want the poster board or a reflector to fill in above if you're going to have one. And I'm thinking that maybe it's better to do without because I don't want to look too awkward in the photo. So that's going to be our 6 angles of light, and really all you need is yourself and a model, and you should be able to get all of this done within just a few minutes. But try to take a few different shots, model smiling, not smiling, looking at the camera, maybe looking off camera, as well as lighter and darker in order to make sure that you have something you can really work with. That should be it.